Okay, you are welcome back. My name is Legendary Boss 247, and in this video, we are going to be looking at critical analysis of the female bodies, and then we shall proceed to draft the female bodies. Right now, we want to start with the front block. Right now, if you want to draft your front block, this is what you're going to do. You pick your paper. Remember, we are using the pattern method, and when it comes to pattern method, we don't add sewing allowance when drafting. Right, you don't need to add sewing allowance because you are doing it on a paper. It is when you want to transfer onto your fabric you can now add your sewing allowance, right? And then you will be drafting half of the bodies, right? You're drafting half of the bodies. There's no need drafting the full bodies, right? You simply draft half of it. You're going to watch me now. I have these measurements here. These are assumed measurement, but it could be the measurement of anybody, right? We have a shoulder of 15, we have a bust of 36, we have under bust, I mean the circumference, bust circumference 36, under bust circumference 30, waist circumference 31, shoulder to bust 10, shoulder to under bust 14, shoulder to waist 16.5, shoulder to waist again, I mean you see bracket B, this one is for the back, 14.5 for that. So I'm using difference 2 inches, right? Then we have the bust span, that is from one nipple to the other. We have it as 7 inches, right? So quickly, this is my paper. I just want to use the edges, right? So we're going to measure a shoulder measurement divided by 2. No sewing allowance. You know, on your fabric you can add half inch, right? So a shoulder is 15 divided by 2 is simply 7.5, right? So if you have that, you go down a little bit and mark the same 7.5 at any point here, and you join with a straight line, right, to some point, right? So the next thing we want to do is to measure her neck width before we can now slope the shoulder. You know that the shoulder of a human being is not actually straight as it is here. It needs to be sloped, right? So measure the average neck width of a lady. Half of it is going to be around 2.5 or 2.75 to 3 inches. Now the average neck width of a lady is between 5 to 6 inches, right? So whichever one you want to go for here, you divide it by 2. That is the wideness of her neck before the slope of the shoulder, right? So if I am going for 5 inches wide neck for a lady, because this is a smaller measurement, this is bust 36, it's not up to 40 or 42. So we are going for 5 there. You measure your 2.5 and then you slope your shoulder by 1 inch, right? So we'll have this here. You mark your 1 inch down here, and then you slope this shoulder from this point to meet here, right? So that is how to get your shoulder slope, right? It could be 2.5, 2.75, or 3 inches. Some people go up to 3.5. That is still okay, right? Now the next thing I want to do is to measure my armhole depth, right? Now in my previous video I showed you how to measure the armhole depth on a person. So if you have done that, you can simply come to your slope here, not from here but your slope, and you measure the armhole depth you have taken. But what if you are dealing with somebody who is not physically available for you to measure their armhole depth? Maybe somebody just sent you their measurement. All you need to do is shoulder divided by 2 is equal to the armhole depth. This is my formula and it works perfectly, right? So in this case, our shoulder is 15 divided by 2 is equal to 7.5. And in some of my video you will hear me say plus 0.5 or plus half inch. You add half inch to this if you want it to be free, right? If you want it to be free. But if you want a very firm and smart armhole, you can go with your shoulder divided by 2, right? But if you want it to be free, kind of free, you can go for shoulder divided by 2 plus half inch, so that will give us 8, right? And then if you are dealing with an armless, if you are making an armless, it is shoulder divided by 2 minus 0.5, so that will give us 7 in this case. But then we are making a regular top, so shoulder divided by 2 equals to 7.5 in this case. So I put my tape at the slope here. I am marking 7.5, so I place a line at that point, 7.5, right? The next thing I want to do is to measure my bust span, right? Now our bust span is 7. Now we are drafting half of our body, so 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. Remember, do not add any sewing allowance yet, right? So we have it here. This is 3.5. This is another 3.5, and then I can connect this all the way to the shoulder down, right? And the next thing we want to do is to mark out our shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, and shoulder to waist, right? So you're going to place your tape at the slope here, the beginning of this slope, on this line, and you mark your shoulder to bust. In this case, we have it as 10 inches. And then your shoulder to under bust, in this case 14, and then your shoulder to waist 16.5. You mark at the exact point, no sewing allowance yet, right? So we want to draw this out, make sure it is straight. This is my bust line, this is my under bust line, and then this is my waist line, right? So we can call this B, we can call this UB, and then we can call this W, right? So bust line, under bust line, and waistline, right? Now if we have known our bust line, our under bust line, and our waistline, now we can now impute the measurement meant for those places, right? So in this case, we have bust 36. Now, what some persons will normally do is to simply do 36 divided by 4, which will give us 36 all over 4, which will give us 9, right? And I say this is totally wrong. This is wrong, right? It is not correct. It is not ideal for you to share the bust of an adult. This shows that this is an adult because her bust is bigger than her honor bust, so she has bust, right? It is wrong for you to share them equally by dividing it by 4, which is equal to 9, right? So I created a formula called the bust allocation formula, which will help you on how to distribute the bust measurement correctly, right? Now my bust allocation formula states that the front bust of a lady, let's put this down, it states that the front bust of a lady, let's front bust in this case be equal to FB. The front bust of a lady, FB, is equal to the total bust of that lady, TB, total bust of that lady, all over 2 plus 1 or 1.5, right? The simple formula, straight up. It says that the front bust of a lady, that is FB, front bust, is equal to the person's total bust all over 2 plus 1 or 1.5, right? So using that for this person here, what will be her front bust? Her front bust is going to be total bust, which is TB. In this case, total bust is 36 all over 2 plus 1 or 1.5. Now 36 divided by 2 will give us 18, plus 1 is equal to 19, or if we are going with plus 1.5, it will give us